Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night if you're planning to sleep. But before you do that, please watch this wonderful episode that we have for you today. My name is Norbert Walter and this is the Scroll Podcast. We are here to talk about something very interesting. Today, I am not alone, of course, but I don't want to introduce him. He's a man of very many things. He wears very many coats and a distinguished caliber and character at that. But before we do that, I would like to thank you very much for keeping it the Scroll Podcast, for all the episodes that you've watched, for all the links that you've shared. We appreciate you and we thank you very, very, very much. Please continue doing the same. The Lord shall reward you greatly in the name of Jesus. Today, of course, like I said, I am not alone. I have a very wonderful friend, a minister of the gospel, and this is none other than producer Slim Beats.
Omunene.
Benji,
bro.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Thank you so much.
On this particular season 3, you're actually the first guest. Kama vyakola vyewunyisa.
What am I?
Kumama.
I'll tell you, I'm a die before. Anyway, it's a pleasure. And
but good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Man, it's
been a long time coming for this one.
Yeah, I've wanted to have you on the podcast, I think, for a very long time. I think there is a time we actually even scheduled some time back, and then things happened there.
December happened.
Was
it around Valentine? December.
What does mean?
You might have. I remember it might have been around Valentine season there.
Valentine season, I was busy. I was communing with the Lord.
Sharing Holy Scriptures.
Why? Name kama mlunji. But good to have you, and I'm excited to hear from you, and I'm sure the people that are watching us today will have a thing or two to go home with, because here on the Scroll Podcast we talk about anything and everything, but in light with a perspective of the Word of God. So ebintu bingi byetwagala okwogirako. Before nagambye, I don't know how much you have to share with us, but we know that the Spirit of God shall lead you. Oli wakibozi era ojja tukuba ekibozi naye kitutulemu bali abalaba be bamanyi bye banaalondamu batwale baka baweeko n'abaana. So Benji, please tell us, maybe for someone who is seeing you for the very first time, you could just tell us a few things about you. Otuli n'omwaka gw'ogenda owasa kubanga
amanya gange. My name is called Benjamin Kasule. Most people know me as Benji Kasule. A few specific ones know me as Slim Beats, the producer. But I am music personified. That's what I could say, because I am more than a producer. I am more than a songwriter. I am more than a singer and a creative and a composer. I'm everything that has to do with music. I believe God blessed me in that area. So from me wanting to, again, I'm studying there and someone would do for you like, hey, I want to cover hit. No, to like, okay, this is my song. Nasokana kubira kayimba. Mugamere njagala ekintu nga kiri bwe kiragamba nedda. Tusiche ekikola kino kyekikola. Ngagwe mutima gwomanyi, this is what God laid on your heart to do. So that pushed me to learning how to do this production, because this advantage of growing up in church, you get osanga gaye ngakubinanga no mutawanyamu nakuyikiriza mu kintu bibiri, okyali awo oli mu Sunday school, or you're doing Sunday school. From Sunday school you're singing in choir. These things help you understand arranging music and understanding how music flows and the different genres of music. And I think that's why there's a lot of talent that sprouts from church, because that background is too big for someone who has had all those 20 years of that background. You can't invest them in someone. It's why to a certain point I'm like, music schools are good, but they don't make musicians. They just teach you the theory. But to give someone all this wisdom someone has acquired for 20 years was so I think for me it was an advantage, and hence initiating me into music production. That's how I started music. production.
Wow.
Hence becoming a singer.
Wow. Wow. So music production has always been a dream for you? Or it was just something that you felt that gap and need to feel?
Personally, I think it was a means to an end. Because from when I was young, I had the calling of especially worship. Like, I'm a very, very big fan of worship. Something always happened to me every time I could watch people worship. And I used to have this vision every time, even up to now it's as vivid as day. I used to have that vision of people worshiping together. We are worshiping, leading people in worship. So it really drove me to want to invest more time in music and understanding it and really getting to know it properly so that I could make this purpose come to pass. So music production was me just trying to fulfill or to basically, I can say it was a means to an end, because the biggest problem we have in Uganda, we don't differentiate DJs from producers. Here, people we call producers are supposed to be DJs in abroad, because DJs abroad make a piece. Like, okay, I've done this beat. Oh, who can sit well on this beat? Kajambia or Fortune Spice or Kupi or the Vixen or Nabosa or whoever. They're like, okay, this beat will work better for this one. Hey, I have this beat. Put your voices on it. Return it back to me when you're done. A producer is supposed to paint the vision for the artist. You understand? So mostly people we call producers here are supposed to be DJs, because a producer is supposed to serve the will of the artist. Your artist will come and they're like, you know what? I want an R&B feel for this song. I want a flute here. I want a saxophone here. If you watched Michael Jackson work, you would think it's the producer himself. But no, he just has ideas. He tells the producer to what? To fulfill,
execute.
So that's the thing that led me to learning how to do these things myself, because I used to have that problem every time I would go to a studio and someone would tell you, no, you do this. I want you to do this because it's the one that sells. You understand? So you could end up having something that you feel is not working for you. I usually tell my clients that as much as I'm working for you, it's not my work. You're the one who is going to stand in front of thousands of those people
to sing the song,
and you will sing the song. So if it doesn't work for you, it will definitely not work for whoever you're performing it to. So that's what pushed me to learn how to do production, to serve myself better, to make sure that I bring out what I wanted the proper way.
Okay, that's interesting, because you talked about something to do with having visions of worship, leading people in worship, and recently twali mu service muzeyi n'agamba we don't have any gospel artists in the Bible. So we probably it's something that we borrowed, a phase we borrowed from the world to probably attach an identity to us. And that is the world I'm trying to identify us. But talking about worship, and we know that following biblical examples and what God has always required of us is to worship Him. You as you, Benji, will have worship at least in our, say, boundary setting of Uganda. Where would you, how would you define the worship ministry in Uganda as a country? Just defined by boundary, not boundary just because of boundary, but at least for the sake of Ugandans that would love or probably feel there is actually more than we have received from the worshippers that we have, or probably there is more than what we have experienced. But at least, how would you define the worship ministry climate that we have in Uganda at the moment?
You know, it's a very big and wide question. But one thing that I have to really appreciate the predecessors or the people who started it, they laid the foundation. And honestly, it was a very good foundation, because it's the foundation where we stand. And usually, I like the line Mosaic says that your offspring are supposed to do 10 times greater than what you did. And I can never thank enough people who started before us. As Judith Mugembe did a very good job. Fiona Mukasa did a very good job. Very, very marvelous job. Betty Namaganda, Betty Nachibuka, they really laid a strong foundation for gospel, or for this gospel music, this thing we call gospel music to stand out. But I think as time goes on, we usually get lost in these things of nitty-gritties of, okay, gospel artists, how is this supposed to look like, how is it supposed to dress like, things like those, and we forget to invest a lot of time in hearing from God and really receiving the message that He wants us to put out. And I think it is better, gospel music has a better platform in Uganda than when it was 10 years ago. Definitely better. But I feel we could do more by changing a few things, like I believe language is a very big barrier. As much as I have a very good song, it is on a few times I will hear someone be like, that song is in Chinese, but it really takes me to the spirit. It's in a few times, but I think Ratchet and Nasara bored us to go beyond. It's because the language barrier that I'll sing Luganda, as beautiful as it will sync with people or Ugandans who understand the language, because this is the thing of communication. As much as it is sound, there are people I know who can just release a certain sound and things happen in the spirit. But it's a gift given to a few people who have really learned to labor to be in a certain place in the spirit whereby they can harness that thing and really take. I like what Mzee says, you can never take people where you have what you never do. But aside from that, why, for example, is Nigeria, South Africa doing better in worship than any other country? It's because they are singing a language that all of us can understand. You understand? Imagine if I came preaching to Ugandans speaking Chinese. Few of them would understand. But I believe language barrier, we have to really start writing songs that will make sure are appealing to the whole world, because it's a thing about nations, not just boundaries, as you said it. We should start really making songs when we have the vision of the whole world in mind, not just people here want to please. As much as some songs come from the spirit, I like something I heard about Pastor Brian Vega's song, the Linda S song. They requested him to write it in English because it's a very powerful song. Like, you should write that song again in English. Some people are really imploring him to write it. I heard he's thinking about it, or like he got paid. I don't know. There are rumors I hear. That has to be number one. We have to have worship music has to have the vision of the whole world. As worshippers, we must have that vision, rather than just settling for because God called us to go ye into the world. Like Mzee says, Christianity is only 2 point something billion people out of the 8 billion people. Who's going to preach the gospel to all those people if we don't really change our perspective and our thinking? Number two, there are people who God gives keys to open certain doors and realms for people. I like what Pastor Kayanja's son is doing, the right thing, right worship, it's sprouting. What I see During is doing with House of Love, and his Debbie, Grace, Michelle, like they're really those things are starting to sprout, which means people are starting to get the picture. Because people who have the ability to stand and recognize such things, if they don't stand out and be like, you know what, this is what is missing in our industry. And if you see, I believe someone said, if you see a problem, it means you're the ones who's supposed to fix it. So we point a lot of fingers, but most of the time people like us who have the ability to make these strides in the gospel, we don't do them, and we end up pointing fingers and blaming others. Then number three, us as ministers of the gospel, people who are laboring into writing worship music, let us labor more into understanding the move of the Spirit in the times and eons we are in, so that God gives us the word and the songs for the times and the seasons we are in. Like I was sharing with my friends recently, the Ndimolokole song, that was a very revelational song. It came at a point in time whereby I've been making a lot of runs in the secular places, especially, and someone tells you a story whereby sometimes you're also like, mulokole yachikola, like, yeah. By the end of the day, you needed something that gives you the confidence that no matter what happens, we are still Christians, and we believe we are born again, and we are called, come rain, come sunshine, we are born again. So we need people, us as ministers, I think we really need to labor more into having songs that speak in the times and seasons that we are in. I think that's when we'll have more impact in the worship industry of Uganda.
Wow, that's very powerful. You know, when I came to understand a few things about worship, to me, I think the most subtle definition of worship is, I think, John chapter 4, when Jesus talks about worshiping God in spirit and in truth. And that is something that I feel at some point maybe we have very many talented people. We have very many gifted people. Yes, they are good at what they do. They could do very good, great music. But at some point, I don't know if maybe they detached a little bit from the identity of the spirit and truth, worshiping God in spirit and in truth. Because and not to judge, of course, but when the scale of truth lies on something, it has to weigh.
Definitely.
It definitely has to weigh.
Sure.
So you find yourself trying to understand, okay, this is a line, but it's contradicting the truth.
The truth, yeah.
This is a line that, was it really inspired by the Spirit of God? And that's why, of course, behind the scenes we're talking about a wonderful worshiper in West Africa who just sings one syllable, and that's a whole worship chant. And it rains for over 8 minutes, over 12 minutes. You play it over and over again. You play it, you feel like praying. You play it, you feel like studying the word. You play it, you feel like the presence of God fills and soaks your room. So I think most probably I think we're in that age and time where for us as Ugandans, we should be able to tune into that same frequency where sometimes you may not need a lot to write.
Definitely.
You may not need very many verses, but you just need something inspired by the Spirit and the truth of God, and it sprouts out. You also talked about something to do with language earlier. Language, I think someone starts, at least for example, a human being, maybe their language, a baby's language starts to get defined also, maybe to even differentiate language at the age of 2.5 into the 3rd year, 4th year. Do you think that maybe the worship ministry or some of the ministers that we have on the scene, or even in the region, at least East Africa, I think that is where we probably could lay emphasis. Do you think that for our region, could we have missed the time when we should have defined our language in the spirit to also attach an identity? Do you think we could have missed that point, even though we've had a very good foundation of the different gospel worshippers that we've had previously?
You know, this thing it's very profound in one way, because like I like how Mosaic State said, you will never take people where you've never been, because these songs you hear people sing and they make a lot of impact in your spirit. That's 10% of what those people, in fact it's like a small percentage of the actual magnitude those people experience in the spirit. Like they're just giving you a snippet of what's there.
Yes.
And if that snippet of what they give you impacts you in that way and helps you also, and it ushers you also into a certain realm, you understand. You have to come with a lot of fullness and understanding to make us, help us also go that way. I usually tell people I do it. I'm like, it's like me coming one morning and telling you, oh, my no batidero, and I chemistry. Never attended one class of chemistry. I don't even know the basic of what is chemistry. So the thing is, because I believe, man, God is powerful in a way that He can even, it's to a certain extent, it's even not even about deeper than that. It's even deeper than language. You understand? Because when you commune with God and you understand Him a certain way, He can give you a certain distinctive sound or a distinctive melody, whereby people, someone will just hear it and they feel the Spirit moving. You understand? For example, there's a chant that some Nigerian lady did. It has been all over social media. Some chant, she's not even saying anything, just a chant. But I've seen it making rounds on social media. Like, it's not even, it has to be deeper than language, because now language comes secondary. You're just trying to define an experience you're having in the spirit, which is limited. So I believe the core of it all, it should be like, people should start asking themselves, number one, am I called for this? Because like, you can still have the gift when you don't have the call, the purpose, and you sing very well. So there are many people who can sing very well. So many people, I can count for you countless number of people who sing very well. But the number of people who have songs that impact people are very few. So I think we really need to labor more, us as ministers, before language, us as ministers, to really dig deep into God and really understand what we are made for, and then definitely the rest can follow. Or it's easier to break all those other barriers.
All right. Thank you very much, Benji. That's a very powerful submission, and would like to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that Benji is a whole music minister. Please follow him on all his social media platforms. Go and stream his music. Go and stream his music on Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer. Yeah. Are you on Pulse as well?
Pulse, all of them.
Dundo.com.
Every
music streaming platform. Please go and stream. I love his new EP, which we'll be talking about in the next part. We'll be back. Cheers.